you've got their trust.
Sorry for that.
That's all right. So as soon as you're really speaking with them and meeting them where they are, you have got their trust, and you are halfway there to being able to use touch. And on that note, I always put the children in charge of the touch. So there's all different ways to do that. And when I share the screen photos, if you want to screenshot them, you can laminate them, you could put them into lucky dip boxes. If they're non-verbal, you could put them up on boards and they can point, or I point to what they want today. You know, put them in charge of the touch. If they want to even sit with an iPad, because that's what they're really into, let them do it. You know, in the end, try and wean them off of that, because obviously when you're staring at a fixed screen, because your eyes aren't moving left to right, it tells your brain you're in fight or flight. But if it's just to ease them gently and put them in charge of that touch, let them choose the music they want while you do it. If they're watching television, let them do it. You know, don't try and make it feel like it's something rigid and routine. They own it, and on different days their favorite parts will be different things. So please take that away with you from today. Meet the child where they are at and put them in charge of the touch. And before you know it, they will be loving it. They will be loving it. I've never had one yet that doesn't. And when you teach them how to do it for themselves, that instantly floods them with serotonin, the hormone of happiness, confidence, and self-esteem. It's enormously empowering. They start to build their own toolbox. And I've actually made toolboxes for some of my clients. I always call them clients, even if they're two, because that empowers them as well. But I've actually made them physical toolboxes and put the pictures of the different massage touches in. So they've got those tools all the time. So they know what to do and how to do it for themselves. And that eventually leads to being aware of that feeling of meltdown, build up, frustration. It makes them aware of their feelings. And once they're aware of their feelings and they then get used to using those tools of touch, it leads to self-regulation, self-management. So it's not making them dependent on you. And as parents, I'm sure a lot of you are already aware of these statistics, but as parents, you very often will have experienced stress and fatigue levels equivalent to a soldier back from the front line, because of all the fighting and the worry about the future for our kids and what we have to go through. And that's an actual statistic. You can also get things, so for instance, your child has a traumatic experience or something has gone badly wrong at school. They can experience trauma to the levels of PTSD. And I know for a fact, my own son has PTSD. And I had what was called secondary PTSD because of that. So because we're with them, we're their parents, we're their mothers, we feel their heartbreaks, we feel their joys. We're on that journey and understand it more than any professional ever could. We know our child. Never stop believing in them, and use the touch I'm going to share with you on yourselves, because you need topping up. And if you're not full, you're running on empty all the time. And touch does incredible things, which are, apart from boosting immunity, which we all definitely need at the moment, it does other wonderful things, which I'm going to go on to share with you. But the second thing I really would love you to take away from our circle today is that what we tell our children is what they become. And that's an absolute fact. Just to let you know, and this is on a neuroscientific level, by the way. So this is neuroscience. I'm not talking about even well-being. I'm talking neuroscience. What we tell our children is what they become. The reasons why. Our memory, first of all, is not just in our heads. Our memory is in all of our 37.2 trillion cells that go around our bodies every single day. That carries the memory of our day-to-day well-being, how we cope and function. you know, how we feel about ourselves, and in a child in a relaxed, memory also goes into water, our water. Now, children are made of 90% water, and as adults, we're anything up to 75% water. Water carries memory, and this has been proven by a leading scientist, Dr. Masaru Emoto. So the memory is in the water. So literally what we're telling our children is what they become. You're actually putting that into their bodies on a neurological level, on a brain level. If a child is in a relaxed state, if you give them the same message 4 to 6 times, the little dendrites on the end of the brain waves come apart and reform a new neurological pathway. It's why brainwashing works. It's exactly why. So it's an actual neuroscientific fact. If a child is more stressed, it might take up to 20 times for that message to make that new brainwave in their heads. The leading researcher in the field, and he's really accessible and really easy to read, is Professor Rick Hanson. And he was the person who came up with the very famous quote, you know, what fires the brain wires the brain. So in other words, what you're being fired up with wires those pathways. So what fires the brain wires the brain. Every day, our minds are building our brains. Our brains don't build our minds. And I thought that all my life until I did my neuroscientific training, but our minds build our brains. So what we tell our children is what they become. So if you've got a child with, you know, challenging needs or ADHD, and they're in a mainstream school setting and they are being told they're naughty or to be excluded or to be put into detention, they will carry those messages into adulthood of, well, I don't belong. I'm different, I'm naughty. I've had children many children come and introduce themselves to me. I've said, well, I'm Guiliana, because I never say I'm a therapist. I'm just Guiliana, and they come and hang out with me because I feel it's a barrier to say I'm a therapist. But they will often say to me, well, my name's so-and-so and I'm the naughty one. And I say, well, why do you say that? Why do you think you're naughty? You know, and they've been told it. They've been told that all their lives. With those messages, they're then 2 to 6 times more likely to go into gangs, substance abuse. And our children with autism, from the minute they are born with much higher levels of cortisol, the enemy of the body, the stress hormone. And touch releases the 4 main amazing happy and coping chemicals, as I call them, our daily dose, the 4 main neurotransmitters that give that stress an absolute bashing. And that then, after 4 to 6 times of doing this touch, guess what? The memory in your children's cells starts to reprogram, the memory in their water starts to reprogram, and they make a new neurological pathway of, yes, I do have self-esteem. Yes, I can cope and function. And you will see those benefits from 4 to 6 separate sessions, because that child is in a relaxed state and you're putting them in charge and empowering them. So that's really, really, really important. Our children who are neurodiverse are also, and this is a fact, and I saw it happen to my own son, if their needs are not met, or they don't have those building blocks of resilience around them, and one of those is school, another one is family, a supportive adult, somebody who believes in them, a goal and a dream, good friendships. These are all the building blocks of resilience. And because you're all here, your kids have already got the main one, which is you as parents. Never stop believing, never let professionals define your child. I was told that my very gifted autistic son, he was amazing at writing, would never, ever, ever achieve. And the funding I fought so hard to get for him was spent elsewhere legally. It wasn't spent on my son. So keep an eye on that funding you fight so hard to get as parents, hold the schools accountable. But they spent it elsewhere. It's a massive long story, and I want to get on with the touch. But to cut a huge, heartbreaking journey short, he then picked up psychosis. He was being tested for schizophrenia because he was hearing voices, smelling bonfires in his room that weren't there. Severe depression, OCD, and that really crippled his life. Autism didn't cripple his life, but OCD was a disability. It really affected his life. And he is now 23 and he's studying to become a professor of creative writing. So not only did he achieve, he then went on to do a degree, a master's, and now he's doing a PhD. So he's more qualified than all those teachers who wrote him off. So keep believing, keep putting those messages into your child's brain. And when you combine it with touch, it's neural dynamite. It's fantastic. So I'm going to show you, I've told you about the water, neurological pathways. It's basically called neuroplasticity, which sounds like a really frightening, really clever, intelligent word. I used to think it was. I was terrible at science. I made my science teacher cry. I was so awful at science. He wouldn't believe it if he knew I went and gave talks on neuroscience now. He'd fall off the floor. But neuroplasticity means that even though our brains physically stop growing at 18, what we do with them is up to us all our lives. All our lives, and it's called neuroplasticity, neuro being the brain, and plasticity meaning a bit like plasticine, it's bending. That's all it means. It's as simple as that. You do not have to be a rocket scientist, you know. So when we put those good memories in the body, the cells, the water, even our immune system has a memory. Even our immune system has its own memory. How fantastic is that? I learned that on a recent training last month. So this is all helping to build those positive neurological pathways in the brain. And I'm going to show you now a picture which is very important because I want to explain to you about, and you're very welcome, please photograph it. I really want you to. So let me just show you this one first. This is our nervous system. And I'm not going to get too nerdy on you because there's nothing worse than people giving talks and showing endless boring slides and you're losing the will to live. But basically, our nervous system, we've got the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, and then the peripheral nervous system, which is the cranial nerves, and something called the autonomic nervous system. This then splits into two. So if you think of autonomic as being automatic, that is all the things our bodies do without us having to think. So growing eyelashes, breathing, sweating, fatty acids to digest things in our stomachs, growing eyelashes, growing hair, you know, all those things are done automatically. And within that autonomic nervous system is our rest, relax, and calm state, which is the parasympathetic. But when we go into fight or flight, we go into this where we're hyperventilating, we're sweating, we definitely don't want to eat, you know. So the ideal is through touch, what we do within 20 seconds. I'm getting so excited, I need to show you my excitement. The first benefit of touch, let me tell you, let's get on with this. If you simply just put your hands anywhere on a child or yourselves, just on the head, anyway, if they don't like their heads being touched, you can touch their shoulders and just rest them there. Now, how simple is that? Well, let me tell you what's so amazing about that. Within 20 seconds, you are surging them and flooding them with this fantastic neurotransmitter called oxytocin, which is all about feeling loved and nurtured. And it also links to emotional intelligence. It stimulates emotional intelligence. So things like empathy, compassion, generosity, self-awareness, interpersonal awareness. That's your first benefit after 20 seconds. So I'm going to show you the 4 main neurotransmitters because this is knowledge is power. And when you use touch, this is happening big time inside the body and the brain. So let me just find my photograph. I did have it a minute ago. Where are we? The daily dose, I call it. Oh, I've got so many photos on here. The daily dose, where are you? I'm going to get my other glasses on. I'm at that age. I'm 50, my darlings. I have to confess to this, and I refuse to get bifocals. So I need to, there we go, got it. That's better. Right, here I am. Daily dose. So please use this. Please post this. Please share it with your schools. Have it up on the wall. Give it to your kids. Let them see it. So the 4 main happy hormones and coping chemicals, they're actually neurotransmitters, are, so dopamine. Now, dopamine, children with autism, autistic children rather, and kids with ADHD, pathological demand avoidance, they are born with a natural lack of dopamine. And dopamine is all about motivation, learning, attention, focus, and motivation. So when kids with autism, kids who have ADHD are told they're naughty or they're not behaving, they're behavioral, this and at government level in the UK, I don't know about in the Philippines, but at government level in the UK, things like ADHD, pathological demand avoidance, which are all kind of higher functioning autism, they are still called by the government, and in teacher training and professional training, they are all taught that this is a conduct disorder, and it's neurologically not. These kids are not producing enough dopamine. And when we use touch, we stimulate that naturally, and it works absolutely beautifully alongside any medication your child might be using. I've worked alongside 2 neuroscientists to date, and countless doctors and countless teacher trainings to let them know this. So it's a lack of dopamine. They are not naughty kids. All kids can be naughty. Sometimes adults can too. I have moments of naughtiness, and it's fantastic. We all need to let off steam, but it's a lack of dopamine, and we can stimulate this through touch, and I'm going to show you how in a minute. Oxytocin, I've already explained to you what that is. It helps trust. It helps with trust. So this is fantastic where you're using touch. It helps you meet that child where they are. It helps them open the door into their world and invite you in. No one should just barge into anybody's world. You know, it's about love. It's about nurture. And as I said, it triggers the emotional, intelligent parts of our physical brain. Serotonin. This is all about happiness, confidence, self-esteem. You know, this is huge, especially with all the mental health issues that we're now facing, not just with our own kids who are 2 to 6 times more likely anyway to pick up an additional mental health issue, particularly as they approach adolescence, but because we're coming through a pandemic. And even neurotypical kids are massively, mental health to me is the pandemic at the moment, what I'm dealing with. So serotonin is key. It really makes you feel you can cope and function. And then endorphins are wonderful, because if you have a child who, they might have cerebral palsy as well as autism, they might have stiff joints, they might be suffering with anxiety, which gives them really awful stomach aches or aching joints and muscles. These are all symptoms of anxiety. And endorphins relieves the pain, takes the pain away. It makes you feel like you've eaten a ton of chocolate and that you're not going to get one single dimple on your thighs. It's that euphoric feeling of feeling like you're in love. And you can also see on this chart how the deficiency affects you. And Josie, if you would like me to send you these photos, if anybody hasn't been able to screenshot them, if you would like me to send you across any of these statistics, any of these scientists, any of the photographs, I am happy for you to share those. And for those of you who belong to other groups, to share them on. Let's make ripples in this ocean for our wonderful kids. And get in charge of that knowledge, because that's empowering us. As parents, we get so many can'ts, so many impossibles. Take that word impossible and put a little apostrophe between the I and the M and make it I'm possible. You know your kids, you know you. So anyway, how do we get this going? Well, let me show you. This is just amazing. I have got some photos to show you, but I'd rather demonstrate because I feel I'm not really a slideshow person. I'm more touchy-feely. So your temples, which is obviously, I'm sure a lot of you know, the soft little bit just behind your eyes here. And you mustn't ever press too hard, but it's a gentle but firm touch. And ask your child, how does that feel for you? So you can do it with the palms. So if they've got sensory overload, sensory issues, if you do it with your palms backwards and forwards, that's wonderful. But if you want to get in even deeper, you use the pads of your fingers and you just do it like this. You could put touch into stories or songs, you know, say they love trains, or Josie, you mentioned to me your son loves cars. It could be, you know, these are the car wheels going around. Put it into a story. The nursery rhyme, the wheels on the bus go round and round. I've got an awful singing voice, sorry. But if you've got a little child, turn it into songs, engage them. You're making it fun. You're not making them sit down and feel like you're yet another adult doing something for them or to them. Play with it. Play with what I'm sharing with you. Have fun with it. Now, the reason you go for the temples is because the temples, I'll leave the glasses again, are the capital, it's the capital city. Just remember this, it's easy. The temples are the capital city of the happy hormones and coping chemicals, your daily dose. And if you can get the kids to do it for themselves, or you can do it for them and do it for yourselves, my darlings, because as parents, you've got to keep topping yourselves up. I do it regularly, honestly, I do it regularly, but it's something they could even do discreetly in the classroom, put their elbows on the desk and they can just go like this. It's pushing blood and oxygen to the brain, which helps them be more concentrated and focused, but it's also the three of the daily dose, so not dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins are made and produced in the pituitary, and that's accessed in massage through the temples, which is why it's the capital city. Dopamine, on the other hand, is made and produced deep in the hypothalamus, travels up the sides of the head. So any massage on the sides of the head, just with the pads of your fingers, is fantastic because you're right on that path of dopamine. If you imagine two half moons back to back, or two capital Ds back to back, if you go up there just gently massaging, get the kids to do it for themselves, you're directly on that path of dopamine. So motivation, pleasure, reward, concentration, focus, attention, all those amazing things. But it travels up the sides of the head and it's then stored in the pituitary. So you've got loads of dopamine in your pituitary as well. So capital city, anything on the hormones, fantastic. Anything on the sides of the head, you got the dopamine. Incidentally, as a byproduct, if your bodies make enough, your brains make enough serotonin, you've then got enough of the serotonin to make melatonin. And melatonin is the neurotransmitter of sleep, mood, and aggression. So if you've got a child who has a lot of meltdowns, hits that absolute frustration, they're not being understood. And by the way, all behavior is communication, and anger is all part of being human. There's a big difference between having moments of anger, which are absolutely essential actually at times, and being an angry person. But so if you're stimulating the serotonin in the temples, you're helping that serotonin make the melatonin for your child to have better, deeper, more restful sleep, a more even mood, and to be calm. The other place you can access melatonin, and I have plucked my eyebrows, I made sure, right in the middle of your forehead here, if you imagine you had another eye, this is the only way I can explain, like a triangle of eyes. So you've got a third eye there. This in massage is where you access the pineal. and the pineal is where melatonin is stored. So if you gently, with the pads of your fingers, massage there, or ask your child to mirror you so they're in control of the touch, and it's gentle but firm, go backwards and forwards. It's so soothing, it's so relaxing, and it's an absolutely lovely one to do at the start of the day because it evens out mood. It calms down any anger, frustration. You might have accidentally mixed two foods together at breakfast, and that's or something has been changed for the day that can throw everything out. Get on that melatonin. It will calm down that frustration, that aggression, that anger, when they get thrown out of what to expect, which is a common trait with autism. And also the deeper restful sleep. I don't know about you, but my son never, ever slept through the night. He had trouble going to sleep, staying asleep. He would sleep like a rigid pole right on the edge of his bed, and he'd get out and he wouldn't even need to make bed. And it was only when I started using touch that he could spread out like a starfish and truly, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. So I'm going to show you a few pictures just so that you have them, Josie, or any of you who, because I do talk a lot, you might want to screenshot them to remember and add them to lucky dip boxes, mood boards, snakes and ladders games. Make games if your child loves games. If they go up a snake or down a ladder, let them go in the lucky dip box and pick out a massage, make it fun. So I'm going to show you some photos, and Josie, I can send them to you separately afterwards, and you can share them with the group. So here we have, hang on a minute, got to find them now. I've got quite a few. So here's melatonin. So this is sleep, mood, and aggression. So you can either do it for your child, but even better, get them to do it for themselves. And if they can do it before bed, you will love me forever, you lot, because after 4 to 6 sessions of doing this, they will start to have better sleep. It's as simple as that. A lot of sleeping tablets, and by the way, I'm not talking anybody out of any medication. It's not my place. I wouldn't be so arrogant, and it would be completely against my code of ethics, which I sign every year. But it works. Sleeping tablets are often made to simulate melatonin and often have names that sound like melatonin. But if you do this or get your child to do this before they go to bed, it will work alongside and beautifully with any medication they are on. GPs are absolutely fine with it. So let me just share a photo with you. I hope I'm all right for time. I've got so much to share. Right, where are we? There's the temples. There's the temples. There we go. Here's my son. Here's my Ollie. This is me in my therapy chalet. So he finds it too invasive when I do it with my finger pads. So he always liked me to do it with my palms, and we go backwards and forwards. And he would love that. And this would help him massively. So this, darlings, is the capital city of the daily dose. The dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, oxytocin. And once you've done this 4 to 6 times, because your child is relaxed, that memory of how they feel day to day will start to drop out of fight or flight. It will start to go to relax, rest, and learn. They'll be way more peaceful. The mood levels, you will be amazed at how it begins to change. And you will also be you directly affecting the memory in their water. And by the time you've done it 6 times, that child, your child, my child there, will start to make a new brainwave, a new neurological pathway, a new positive one. So combined with your belief in them and these positive messages you're surrounding them with as a group, when you mix that with touch, you can really begin to understand how powerful it is. Let me tell you something else really exciting, because I am a bit worried about the time and I have to share. I think I've written too many. I might need to do a part 2. But anyway, you know how I said to you before that you can your brain physically stops growing at around 18. Well, and tell your children this, and I want you to show them the picture of this. If they're non-verbal, they can still look at pictures. If they're dyslexic, even better. And myself, I'm a really visual learner. So you can actually alter, and this is neuroscience proven, Professor Rick Hansen and many others, through touch and through positive messages, you can actually shrink the grey matter around your fear center, the emotional brain, the amygdala, which is situated deep inside your cognitive brain. So that's why this isn't well-being. This isn't fluffy rubbish that makes someone feel good for half an hour. You will be doing amazing work. So after 4 to 6 treatments, your child, the grey matter around that emotional brain, which is physically inside your cognitive brain, it can't be separated out. Body and mind cannot be separated. They cannot be. They are one and the same. You will actually be shrinking that grey matter around their fear center. Now, how amazing is that? Most of our emotional and behavioral responses to fear, in particular, are laid down before the age of 7. So very often you might hear somebody say to someone, oh, pull yourself together, you're acting like a child. It's actually the cruelest thing you could ever say. And I've said it, so I feel really ashamed. I've learned this on my trainings. What's happened to them is that instead of something being just a normal stimulus, which then just gets filtered gently through the emotional brain, which incidentally houses the fight or flight switch button, that's actually inside that emotional brain. And normally a stimulus would happen. The emotional brain would then interpret that. It decides the response, and then they have their reaction. When somebody has been traumatized, which can very often happen with our kids, if they've been in a situation where they've not been understood, they immediately, that stimulus is no longer a stimulus. It becomes trigger. So it goes from a trigger, there's no filter, that's gone, there's no filter. And it's that immediate emotional behavioral response. The leading scientist in this field, he wrote a book called The Emotional Brain. It's a hard read. It's a brilliant read, but it's very, very, very scientific. I've broken it down because I have to for me. But he proved this, that this is laid down. Most of our responses are laid down before the age of 7. If we're then going through mainstream or through life and we're not being supported or understood, that grey matter around that grows thicker. So we become fear-based. We are continually on fight or flight, which is an awful way to live. So tell your kids, do you know what? Not only are you in charge of the touch, not only are you in charge of the memory in your cells and your water, the memory in your immune system and your brain waves, but you're actually in charge of the grey matter inside your brains all your lives. The other really important area where we can grow or shrink our grey matter is the forehead, the prefrontal cortex. I'm going to show you some diagrams in a minute that you can keep, and please print them off and show your kids. Please empower them, show them what they're in charge of, and use it on yourselves. But the prefrontal cortex, if you imagine your jumbo jets, or Josie, your son loves cars, right? So it's the engine. The front of the head, the prefrontal lobe, houses all our higher brain functions. So things like seeing consequences, being able to cope with sudden change, good judgment. It houses our personality, you know, how we react to things, our motivation, our drive, our attention, all of the mental flexibility. It houses all of that. So any work you do on your forehead, you are boosting those higher brain functions and you are shrinking. You're growing the grey matter. You're growing the grey matter around your higher brain functions. So if you've got a dyslexic child, for instance, or a child who's more severely autistic and they're being told, oh, you know, you've got learning difficulties. Well, first of all, it's different. It's not a disability. It's different. That's my opinion. It's only my opinion. But we all have different ways of learning. And when you polish that cockpit of your plane, which is how I often put it to the kids, you are growing the grey matter around the most intelligent parts. Is your rational brain. And as we know, if we're in fight or flight all the time, what happens? The first thing that gets compromised is our frontal lobe, because it shuts down. No blood will flow there. And the immune system shuts down as well. So we become poorly under long-term fight or flight. So I'll just show you here that I've already shown you this, the melatonin point. But the other thing you can do is just with the pads of your fingers, and the kids can do this for themselves, you're just rotating like this. You're moving the skin, but you're not pressing hard. And you're going up and down the forehead, really, really gently and mindfully and slowly. You're also going over that melatonin point for sleep, mood, and aggression. And the reason you're going from temple to temple is because the temples are the capital city of the happy hormones. You've also got a concentration point here. So you could give that a little extra massage. Say you're filling out loads of forms for, you know, IEPs or EHCPs or school forms, or, you know, endless forms of funding. Give your concentration point a little bit of love, a little bit of extra. So, and then you work right round to that other temple where they're being surged, filled again with all these amazing happy hormones and coping chemicals. So I'm going to show you now, I've got a picture, which I really want you to show your children what they're in charge of. They are in charge of their brains. So first of all, I'll share this one with you quickly because it's handy to know which parts of the brain do different things. Incidentally, on our brains, on the sides, you know, I showed you, imagine 2 half moons, the path of dopamine. You've got areas there which actually help with reading and processing faces, social cognition, empathy. Can you believe it? This is in our actual brain and we can stimulate that. So if your child has trouble reading social situations or body language, or has trouble with social cognition, any massage you do on the sides of the head will be fantastic. So I've got another picture now because I want to show you the grey matter in the brain that you have direct control over. Where is it? Oh gosh. Here we go, your 3 brains. So this is where you can grow or shrink grey matter around the emotional brain, around your rational brain. It's absolutely phenomenal just by gently massaging your head. And incidentally, when you just massage like this, that gentle circular rubbing motion, even if your child has epilepsy, this one is fine. This one is fine to do. And then they can do it for themselves. There was another picture of the brain I wanted to show you, which is really, it's a really brilliant one. I found it especially for this talk. Here we go. Oh my God, look at this. Look at this. So you actually you can shrink and grow the grey matter around these main parts of the brain. You don't have to have PTSD. You are capable of shrinking or growing the grey matter through touch and the messages you give your children. What we tell our children is what they become. So if the amygdala, which is the fear center, which contains fight or flight, if our cells are telling us and our water is flowing around our bodies, telling us, do you know what, you're in fight or flight? Do you know what, you're in fight or flight? And that's how you're continually living. The grey matter around that emotional brain, that amygdala, will grow, but it will shrink around the prefrontal cortex. So that's your rational brain, the higher brain functions, the cockpits of your jumbo jets, and it will shrink around the hippocampus, which is all about memory, learning, navigation, spatial awareness. It will shrink. People with long-term PTSD, so if your child has had a really traumatic time and has PTSD, touch will be amazing because it will start to grow that matter around the hippocampus again. And people who have been under long-term PTSD, the hippocampus in the brain physically shrinks. So not just the grey matter, but the actual hippocampus itself. So please, if you're a therapist, share this with your clients freely, share it as parents. Use this for each other, because we go into fight and flight for our children. You know, what's going to happen to them in the future? Our autistic children are going to become autistic adults. What happens when I'm not here anymore? You know, I'm having trouble filling out a 92-page form just to get a little bit of funding. You know, you're going to be in fight or flight. Your prefrontal cortex will be compromised, and so will your hippocampus. And as parents, we also are very often somewhere on that scale of 1 to 10 of fight or flight. So massage your heads, because honestly, tell your kids you are in charge of your brains. And I think this should be in every classroom, in every school, whether it's a specialist school, whether you're homeschooling, whether it's a mainstream school. Every single child, from as soon as they can understand, should be told that they are in charge of their brains. They are in charge of their grey matters. No child should be told they're behavioural. No child should be told that they're subnormal, deficit. You know, what's all that about? Disorders, deficits. Excuse me, I'm autistic, but, you know, I've built a business. I've survived a really abusive marriage. I've won awards for my work. I've trained in neuroscience. I've trained in therapies. Don't let anyone tell you you can't. Put that little apostrophe in that word impossible, because you are all possible, and so are your kids, and they are in charge of their brains. No one else defines them. Sorry if I seem a bit feisty, but I do feel very strongly about this. How much time have I got, Josie? How much more can I share? We're going to have to make a part 2.
Okay, actually, we have gone over our time, but I think
No, I'm so sorry to hold you all
it's
up.
okay. We're going to have part 2 because
Part
I
2's
think,
coming. I'm
yeah,
going to tell you about the vagus nerve and the gut. Part 2 is coming.
I love your materials, even what you have shared about dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin. I will definitely use them. I will
Yes,
definitely
please.
use them even in parents coaching, because even while
Yeah,
you're sharing, I'm trying to do it with myself, and
good.
I'm
We
getting
need to
to
top up.
yeah,
We need to top up.
that calming thing. It's really settling in my mind, and
Yeah.
what you have
And the
shared.
oxytocin
Yeah.
takes just 20 seconds. There's your first immediate benefit. Drops you out of that fight or flight. 20 seconds. How powerful is that?
Yes, it's like reprogramming your kids all over
Yes,
again.
it
I
is.
like this, like power of touch plus power of words, because you're
Yeah,
telling us that to combine it with power of words. I really like what you said, that we cannot tell our kids that they are behavioral. I love that.
yeah.
Yeah,
They're
because
not.
all things that's happening to them when they cry are really behavior. No, it's
Exactly.
not.
It's they're communicating. That's what they're doing. They're
Yes,
communicating, and they're low on
yes.
dopamine. So get them doing the sides of their heads and their temples.
Yeah. um Actually, it really makes lots of sense to me now, what you're saying, because I have encountered a parent whose daughters, actually she has twins, and her daughters is doing, because they're already in a teenage stage, and they are doing lots of crazy things with their bodies, and when they start when the parents start becoming more touching, caring, touching their daughters, they become more and more relaxed, and they are uh, removing those crazy things that they are doing with their bodies. I now realize this is it. That
Can
you're
I just share
saying.
one more thing really quickly
Yes,
about that?
yes.
If,
Go ahead.
if he's in that high arousal state, that real, that's it, that's it, I'm going off like a rocket. I call it mummy arms. And you literally, they can do it to themselves so that they don't feel like you're crushing them. You go all the way down the arms, but very slowly. It brings the energy down. You only ever do it down. And then if you cup your palm, in the very center of your palm, you've got something called, it's an anxiety point. You're actually working on the gut. So if you have a child who has real gut issues, and that's very often linked to the emotional brain and the messages coming up from the gut. 90% of our serotonin, the hormone of happiness, confidence, and self-esteem, is in the gut. So when you go on this anxiety point and you massage there and do both hands, because the muscles in the hand directly relate to the brain, you are not only bringing the body right down out of fight or flight, but you are also you are calming the gut. You're pushing up that serotonin and dopamine from the gut. And it's also called a nourishing point. It's a nourishing point and a bliss point. So as a parent and as a professional, I can't tell you how many times I do this a day. Or if I'm sitting in a meeting where I'm being told all these kids have got deficits and disorders, and I think, Guiliana, don't explode. I put my hands under the desk and do this to try to calm down. It's brilliant. Mummy squeezes all the way down, and then the anxiety point, and get them to mirror you. It works.
I have a question. How do you motivate your kid or your kids in that part? That how do you motivate them to do self massage or self doing these things to themselves?
Put it into games. Your child is into cars, so what you could actually do is when I send you the photographs of the massages, you could call this one, for instance, the car park. So that's bringing the body to stillness. This could be, let's get the engine going. We're going on a journey. Put it into stories. Put it into games.
Make it fun.
You could even card games. So I don't know. Hearts could be doing this because it fills you with all the happy hormones and coping chemicals. Spades could be massaging around the sides of your head like this. If you pull out a diamond, it could be doing the anxiety point. A club could be the mummy squeeze. Sorry, I've just gone off on one. We talk about car parking. This could be a car wash. This could be a car wash. And this could be polishing the car after it's been washed. So put it into stories. Make treasure hunts. Even if you haven't got a garden, I laminate little massage cards. I mean, I've actually got a book, and I always say to people, my son took the photographs, so please don't worry about breaking copyright. My son and I give you full permission to use those photographs from my book. It's called Indian Head Massage for Special Needs. Photograph those and get your kids to name them so that it's not, all technical. Get it to name them after what they love doing, And by the way, if your child is nonverbal and you touch them, you can instantly feel from the body whether a child hates it or loves it. You can tell. The body talks all the time. So please have fun with it. You could have a game of Ludo, and every time you get a counter out, you get to pick a lucky dip massage or to choose one off of a board. Make it fun. Get what's the child's passion? What sort of a day have they had? And even if it's been a grumpy day, you could say, I drove you to school, but it was a bit hard going. You faced some challenges, but when you came home, you had a big hug from me and something really lovely to eat, which nourished you. And tomorrow's another day. You can You can even help them verbalize their horrible day by getting it out through touch, and you're flooding them with their daily dose, those 4 main neurotransmitters, you know, and tell them why and how it works, you know, show them the charts so that it puts them in charge of their progress, their healing. It puts them in charge of their brains. You know, if they know that by doing this, they can shrink the grey matter around their fear centre, a 2-year-old can understand that, a 2-year-old. And I have 2-year-olds who come in and say, Guiliana, Mummy didn't get me the right crisps. Can you make me happy again? You know, so just, you know, they know. Put them in charge. That's the secret.
You're telling us that they can do this by themselves, to themselves,
Absolutely.
to themselves. Like, for example, when we are not around, that they are at a certain place or they are at school, they can really apply these things when they become stressed.
They've got the tools. You could put your arms on a desk and you could massage your own head like this, get the dopamine going if you're having trouble paying attention. You know, if you're feeling anxious or that you're going to have a meltdown, you could easily massage that anxiety point under your desk. Nobody would even know. You could even sit there and just go like this. Nobody would notice. It's all discreet. And that's the beauty of it. But obviously, as parents, when you do it with your children or to them, put it into games or even simply do the touch before bed, do you know what that does? That bonds you with your child. Because, and if you've got other siblings, other children, I used to do it for all 4 of mine because so much of my attention was on Ollie. And I felt awful that the others would sometimes feel jealous or neglected, because I was a single parent always, even when I was married. So, you know, to share the touch with them, to put it into games, it bonded them with their brother, because touch bonds you, oxytocin. But as parents, it's that bonding with your child. I did a parents workshop a few weeks ago, and there was a dad there who actually broke down because we made a little story massage. We put the movements into story massages for the parents and kids, you know, like it was just a really lovely family workshop, only an hour. And this man cried. He broke down in front of the group. There were only 10 lots of us. It was small because I never do big groups because I can't give enough otherwise. And he broke down and he said, do you know, Guiliana, this is the first time I've touched my son in 8 years just because. It's always been to force him to have his medicine, to make him eat his dinner, to drive him to school, which he hates every day, get him in the car, get him out of the car. It's all that sort of touch. And he said, I've bonded back with my son. And he broke down. He made me cry because I'm an awful professional. They touch, but I never can.
Because touch is really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it connects us to our kids. It connects us to them, to the center.
It connects other siblings who might be neurotypical with the child who they perceive as getting more attention, which they are, but it's hard to understand when you're little, you know.
It's really true.
It bonds you all as a family, so it helps everyone. You know, I never just work with a child. I always work with the families. Always. It's important.
Yeah, I think that's really wonderful, because families should really help one another, and especially this is a powerful tool for the parents, especially for the moms out there. Of course, for the dads too. Actually, there are some people who's there's a certain mom here, or a certain maybe she's a therapist, or we, where can I find a recording of this awesome lecture? I have recorded this. I'm going to put this up in our YouTube channel also, and here in the group. Yes. And
would you tag me, please, Josie? Would you tag me?
Sure.
Because I've got a YouTube channel as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, Guiliana Peter, Rainbow Kids Touch Therapy. That's my YouTube channel.
Wow, wonderful. I'll follow you. Our official...
I don't get paid for it. I'm not looking for... I don't get paid for it whatsoever. I started it up during COVID to freely share. So if you've got a child just totally touch averse, I show you loads of other ways and loads of other therapies that you can use on a friends and family basis, or you can use as therapists in your practices. I'm from the heart. I don't want to go around owning everything. It's there to share. So there's all different ways to act. Every child has an access point. And if you go through, I'm badly behaved on them, by the way, I must warn you, I do giggle a lot and I never watch them back, but I've been told they're quite amusing. But, you know, you learn through laughter, you know, that's serotonin, isn't it, straight away? But there's loads on there. There's about 90 videos of all simple different things you can use with your kids.
Wow.
And as Rainbow Kids Touch Therapy.
Okay, so that's the channel of Guiliana, but when it comes to our YouTube channel, the official our group is Autism Family Support. Okay, that's
I'm going to follow you.
Autism Family Support. Okay, some parents are saying, thank you from Mommy Sarah Jane, thank you from Daddy Ivan, thank you so much. Mommy Cathy says, wow. Mommy Cheryl says, thank you for the wonderful information. Chris Marie says, thank you so much. And I think parents are really just listening right now. And all those parents, most of our parents actually, they are really watching the replay, because some of them, they are not available, but most of them watch the replays actually. So I think we will really have
freely, you know, share it wherever you feel you can. I don't mind, you know. We really do all need to be together wherever we are in the world. I mean, before COVID, who would have thought I'd be speaking to you?
It's true.
It's what it's about.
Mommy Christine says, very informative. This is awesome. Wow. Actually, the first time I saw you, Guiliana, I think, wow, this lady, she's so full of life, and she's really massaging her son. Oh, she can massage her, I know, her youth. Actually, I think your son is looks like already a young adult, no? Then you still massage them because she's full of life and she's full of fun.
It's fun. Everything I do is fun. Everything is an invitation, and that in itself builds those neurological pathways, puts that memory in the cells. It doesn't become a therapy where they have to behave and you expect them to be where you want them to be. Our children become what we tell them, you know, and it's our job to meet them and celebrate them and advocate for them and share this stuff with their teachers. You know, they could have a little 5-minute massage, self-massage as class after registration. And I bet that would have a massive impact on the learning environment. If every child did it, so you're not just singling out those who are neurodiverse, that's inclusive. That makes that child, that continual message, I belong here, everybody's doing this, you know, and it has a huge benefit because everybody's motivated, relaxed, ready to learn. So share it with your school.
So as you give me the, after you give me the material, I'm going to post it in the group so everyone can share it also.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Lovely.
And I think this is definitely going to have a part 2.
Because we definitely are, because
we already we don't have time already, but please, before you say the final word, I will just quickly make some announcement, if I may. Okay, I'll just share some announcement first. Okay, announcement. Okay, on Friday, we're going to have our Parents Please, our live prayer and fasting, Facebook live prayer and fasting on Friday at 8:30 p.m. And then part 2 of our Connections of Love, part 2 Parents Coaching will be on July 24. That's next Saturday, 7:30 p.m. And then next Wednesday, we don't have a Facebook live training. We're going to meet at Zoom. We're going to have a Zoom online parents meetup. And our topic is choosing a better autism school for your child, or autism education for for your child. So we will just be talking about academics, choice of school, those kinds of things. And then lastly, on Saturday, we're going to have our teens online meetup, ages 12 to 19. All teens here in the group, siblings, families, friends, even the neurotypicals, even with those with autism are welcome. Okay, so you just have to use this passcode, Zoom ID passcode, and they can join. And I'm telling you that many parents are really happy of the good results that their kids are really having. So thank you. That's all. So I will give Juliana the last uh, words for tonight. Okay. So
Okay. And I mean this with all my heart. I really do. You have been blessed to have the children you have, the same as me. They're our teachers, and we're moving the world forwards, and we are all in it together. And bless Josie for all her amazing work that you do. You do so much work, you know, and just all keep our angels with us, you know, and with our children. And thank you so, so much for having me and putting up with all my liveliness and non-stop talking.
actually, thank you. We,
Oh, you're
in
welcome.
behalf of all the parents, we want to thank you. Thank you for all the works. Thank you for sharing your works, the works of your son with us, all those materials that you are sharing in the group nonstop. Thank you, because personally, me, I am really using them in our teens mentoring. Thank you for those materials. And for all the parents out there, thank you for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to the part two. And of course, we can do so much. We can try our best, but always remember we should really always mix it with faith in God and prayer, because we can do so much, but God will do the miracles for our kids. Every day we will expect progress, we will expect good things happenings for our kids. So can we just close in prayer right now? Let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for all the things we've learned tonight. Thank you for these parents who have joined. And I pray that may you help all of us to be able to do this with fun, to our kids, even to our husbands, Lord God. Thank you for this knowledge, really powerful knowledge that is in our hands. Help us, oh God, to be able to really impart this effectively to our kids and families, Lord God. And thank you, Lord, for the life of Guiliana. Bless her, expand her, Lord. Really use her more. And thank you, Lord, that you're making her a blessing, a gift to many, many autism families, Lord God. And thank you, Lord. We just commit to you everything. We give you the glory, the honor tonight. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. So God bless you all, parents. Thank you so much. Guiliana, thank you again. God bless.
See you soon. God bless everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'll just stop the live stream. Okay.